Kia ora. I'm going to share with you a layout I am creating to document my daughter Katya's a bit of a photo shoot we did locally just before she turned 18 and just before she moved away to another part of the country. So in this layout I'm going to make some really good use of the Yesterday and Today collection from Close to My Heart that's new out in the March-April 2020 idea book. And in this collection there's a lot of heritage type papers, but I'm going to show you that while I'm kind of creating a heritagey page, you can use modern up-to-date photos with this collection. I've also teamed it with some of the elements from our new Everyday Moments Cricut collection. And so I've used one of the files here. I think it was Forever Friends. So this was a banner around the outside, and I have cut this a couple of times and in some different sizes using our white glitter paper. And so I've ended up cutting a bit of extra. In the original design, the banner sort of goes part way round. The banner, not looking for the wrong word, probably kind of a wreath, a semi-wreath, and it goes part way round or 3/4 of the way round, and there's a gap in it. So I cut this out twice so that I could create a bit of a full circle all the way around with this beautiful foliage look, and bringing in a bit of a glitter and shine with the white glitter paper. So for the title, I'm going to use the foam letters, and I did cut each of them out individually here. What I would have been better to do in hindsight, which is always a good thing, is to have stuck them down on an empty part of one of these sheets so that the letters were all kind of together, because the way it worked out, it would have been the same, but it would have been simpler when it came to sticking them down later for them to have been together. So I didn't want the straight white because of this gorgeous sort of messed up background with a bit of different shading and different fonts and things on this paper. I wanted to add to this with the title. So I actually used the word love from the Yesterday and Forever, I think it was the scrapbooking stamp set in there. Yesterday and Today stamp set, and it is the one that is for scrapbooking. I tell lies, it's the card making one that I've used here, the card making stamp set, the word love, and I'm just using the Espresso ink and stamping on the letters. You can't actually read the word love when it's on the layout, but it's quite cool having the font on the foam letters, the same as this kind of a font etched in the background paper. So it's tying the elements together. So I've got my letters there, and I'm going to pull the page over. I decide that I really liked how the Espresso ink tied in, and I decided to use the rose from this Yesterday and Today card making stamp set as well to stamp where the wreath is going to sit when I finally stick it down. So I sort of place these around, and the reason I did this, it kind of adds another depth or layer or element to the wreath when it all comes together at the end. So I do it singly most of the way around, but I double up in some places because I want the roses to sort of peek out from behind that white glitter wreath. And you'll see here I just sort of double up in a few spots. So I'm going from my visual memory of how the wreath sat and where bits poked out and bits didn't. So now that I've done that, I can sort of pull that on and see what that's kind of going to look like. So you can see there it just adds another layer, just having that colour in behind the wreath. So now it is time to get that wreath stuck down. So out comes the liquid glass, which is brilliant for sticking down little fine cuts, and the fine tip applicator makes it even more fabulous because you don't have to poke a pin in the top every time you go to use it. So I'm just going to do part of this, and then I'm going to slowly stick down the rest. So lifting it up and sticking it down as I go, rather than placing it all at once. And also looking at where the photos are going to sit and tying that in there. So I'm looking at which mix-ins or which papers and things will sit in nicely behind the photo. So you can see here I've got the same piece that I've used in the background paper, but I decided not to use that. Instead, again, just playing around with the different papers. And I decided that this floral paper from the mix-in ties in, it's got that soft subtleness of my 18-year-old daughter in there, but it does just lift that photo out from the neutral background. So sticking those down and using 3D foam tape to stick down the actual photograph. And this in part was because I knew that the glitter paper was in behind there, and sometimes we need something else to stick that down. So I've used some of the stickers from the Yesterday and Today paper and sticker collection to tuck in there, and again that ties in really nicely with that stamp that I've put into the background. Now the leaves that I'm adding here are also from the Everyday Moments collection, Forever Friends page, and so you can cut this page, the Forever Friends page, as it is, and I have done that, but I wanted to play around with the different options with the elements in this design to show that it is really versatile, and you can use it in lots of different ways and play and change stuff around to suit what you're doing, but also to make a page completely yours. So the titles here are going to be stuck in down the bottom. They had to be taken out carefully because the ink does take a little bit of time to set, and it has mostly set, and while the smudging wouldn't really matter, I wanted it to just retain some of that understanding that it is a font or some words that are written on there. So tidying away my space a little bit and thinking about what I'm going to add to this page next. So I decided to add my journaling note about this photo shoot just down the bottom, right straight onto the background paper. It doesn't jump out at you when you look at the page, but I know that the information's there, and that's going to be important looking back in years to come. Pretty much all of my pages have a title, and they have journaling that helps to tell the story of the photo that's in it. So turning over the mat, you've got a really good stamping surface on the back, and I decided that I'm going to use some of the images from the card making stamp set to add to the layout, kind of on the lines of the stickers, but because I'm able to do them onto the cardboard, and it's the French vanilla, I think it is here, that I'm using, I was able to cut these out using thin cuts in the Cuttlebug and stick these down onto the page. So you can just see that having those thin cuts just adds another way of reinforcing that sort of floral stamp that's in the background, as well as adding another interest point to the page. So again, using the liquid glass to stick down some of the finer pieces, and also to stick down the stamps, the stamped images, the leaves and the flowers. It's quite cool being able, with the foam tape in the background of the photo, being able to tuck things under and in between the different layers of the photograph. So it doesn't all have to go on top. Some of it can tuck in behind, and some of it can tuck in between the layers. And even using the 3D foam tape to lift up the stamped image. So just adding that there, coming into the photo but not covering up the picture. So now I'm going to use some of the gold gems and just placing them reasonably randomly, as well as deciding to put some in the centre of some of the florals in the wreath. And there we go. Thanks for watching.